Hello, you marvelous Ignite Your Power community members. I'm Rosemarie Lester, and I'm a Tapping into Wealth coach, and I'm just so happy to be here today and being able to share with you my experience with working with one of my favorite Tapping into Wealth modules, and that's the goal trauma, the process of the goal trauma. And what I want to share with you today is one of the scenarios that you just may encounter when you are working with goal trauma. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm going to be using my notes. I don't know if you experienced that, but for me, when I go into a coaching session, it's almost like I go into some sort of a trance. I get inspiration and I don't even know what I'm saying. And if it wasn't for taking really good notes, I wouldn't remember what I did. But anyhow, that's just me. So I'm going to be talking about goal trauma, and just to remind you, goal trauma is, how you approach that with a client is you ask them, do you remember a time or an event in the past when you really wanted something? You decided you were going to make something happen. You were going to get something. And it was big for you, it was different, it was a stretch, but it was really important. And you knew that you could do it, you'd work really hard, you committed 110%, you put your heart and soul into it, and you failed. And ever since that time, you just, when you make a goal, you never really fully commit, and you never put your heart into it. Now, if you have a client that says no to that, they can't really remember the time, then what you're probably dealing with is some very old wounding that happened early in childhood. Some of my clients say it feels like they were born with this wound. And the wounding is usually around family paradigm or a result of a very young child making a false conclusion about who they are, what the world's like, wounding around their power. Now, with Chris, let's go back. So what is this wounding? This wounding is really a belief trauma. So with my client Chris, she wants to build her practice. She wants to make her career, build her practice working with people that have autoimmune disorders. Chris has suffered from psoriasis since she was in middle school, and she knows how devastatingly, and damaging that is, and she's passionate about this. She's got this huge desire and calling to help people like herself heal from this. And in order to do that, the first step that she feels she needs to do is to get her EFT certification. But she's finding this to be a real big struggle, and she just can't do it. So I approached it as a goal trauma. So I did the setup. Do you remember a time in the past when you had something big? And she's paused and she said, well, no, not really. I don't remember anything like that. So I asked her, well, have you ever set goals that you've achieved? And she said, well, yeah, and usually around sports and some other things, but they don't count. So I asked her, what do you mean they don't count? And she said, well, they weren't really that my goals. They were just something that I was expected. So then I asked her, well, do you remember a time in the past, did you ever set a goal for something that was just for you? Something really important and big for you? And she just paused. And she said, when in this pause, I could feel her energy just like immediately collapsing. And what she said is, I don't know how to set a goal. I never had a model for that. My family didn't do it. It's almost like I'm not allowed to do that. It's shameful to think of doing that. It's not my tribe, not what we do, not for me or anyone in my family. It makes me feel weird and awkward. It's like, bingo! Talk about uncovering gold. And I have to say, none of this came up when we talked about family paradigm and money issues. So this is really cool. And this is why I love this work so much. It's like I get to be a detective. You help clients uncover all of these things that are holding them back. I never know the details of what might come up, but I always know where to go with it. That's what's so marvelous about the training we get. So anyhow, I wanted to, there's so many places I could have gone with all of this, you could see, but I wanted to keep it focused on goals. So I asked Chris, I said, okay, if you were to set as your goal getting your EFT certification, and on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 meaning it's never going to happen and 10, slam dunk, you've got it, how possible is it for you to get your EFT certification? And she just said, well, this is the only way it would be possible is if it was with really struggle and hard, and even then it would only be a 10. And what was coming up for her is, I can't do it, I'm never going to be that one, even though I want to do it. That doesn't mean anything. Me wanting to do it doesn't mean anything. I'm powerlessness, it's just not safe. So now, Chris's voice was getting really, really small and quiet and childlike, and I could just feel her caving in. And then she talked about how scared and ashamed she was feeling, and she just wanted to hide. So I asked her to take a deep breath, get into her body, and what was she feeling now? She said she was feeling it on her left side, her heart, her stomach, her energy was really tight. It was hard to breathe. She felt hot in her head, and in intensity, it was at an intensity of a 10. So the first round of tapping we did was on acknowledging all of these feelings in the body, sensations that immediately pop up whenever she just thinks about setting a big goal for herself. So that tapping went something like this, and you'll be getting the complete tapping scripts of everything, but for now it went something like this. Thinking of getting a goal, setting a goal, thinking of getting my EFT certification, even just wanting to do big things. It's too big. It's too scary. I immediately feel it in my body. I feel it in my left side. I feel it in my heart, my stomach. Hard to breathe, body tight, too scared. Something bad's going to happen. Something's bad's going to happen. It always does. This belief is wired into my nervous system. My nervous system is flooded with all of these feelings, scared, shame, wired into me. Even thinking about setting a big goal, my body feels horrible. And then it went on that way, and we closed with, and now I'm honoring all of this. So after the tapping, I asked Chris to tune back into her body just to see what's going on, and she said, well, it did shift. The intensity is down to about an 8 now. The sensation is mostly in her chest. It's still hard to breathe. It's in her chest and head. But what popped up while she was doing the tapping was this thought, was my dad. And I said, okay, what about my dad? My dad, always putting me down. I know he doesn't know anything else. So right there, I love that, because right there it was like vow of loyalty creeping in. I never heard anything good out of his mouth. I never could do anything good. It just always hurt. What's wrong with me? So again, I asked her to breathe and just feel into her body. And what's the intensity? It was at a 10. She was feeling very scared, ashamed. There were tears in her voice now. She's very tight in her body. It was hard to breathe. So the second round of tapping we did was on this dad always putting me down. And it went something like this. My dad always putting me down. I never heard anything good out of his mouth. Always hurting me. His words, never anything good to say about me. Never anything good to say to me. It didn't matter what I did. Didn't matter what I did. Didn't matter. Dad always putting me down. Only the boys could do anything right. All of us girls, he always put us down. Couldn't do anything right. Proud of my brothers, but he always put me down. This beautiful little girl, beautiful little Chris. No matter what she did, no wonder she didn't set big goals. No wonder she didn't want to dream about big things. So we went on like that. And I do the tapping, where I can just feel some sort of a subtle shift. And then I always end it with, and I'm just seeing this now, I'm just honoring this now. So after all of this, again, asked her to take a deep breath, and then I just said, let your mind paint you a picture of that little version of you there with your dad as he's putting you down. What does she look like? Chris said she looks scared. She's trying to put her hands in front of her face. She's in a hiding posture. She's looking to the side, trying to hide, very scared. And I asked her, well, how old is this version of you? She said, 5. And I said, is there anybody else there with her other than her father? She said, no. So we did, well, by now I knew this was really huge. We weren't going to solve it. We weren't going to heal it in one session, and we were running out of time. And she was been through a lot. Chris needed to be comforted, to have some relief. So I needed to close the session and bring Chris relief. So I did the following visualization. I asked Chris to just let her mind paint the picture of that little 5-year-old her there with her father, and then just allowed Chris to have the adult Chris just step into this picture and say to the child, and ask Chris, what would the adult you say to this little 5-year-old Chris? And she would say things like, you are safe. You're safe with me. I have you. I love you. And by now, the little 5-year-old Chris was in the adult Chris's arms, and they were clinging to each other. So I asked Chris, does this 5-year-old you believe the adult you? And Chris said, well, yes, she does, but she's still really scared. So then I ended the session with a following visualization and meditation. I went something like this. I said, just hold her. Just allow your heart to expand. Just feel your heart within your chest. Find that little green spark, that little green energy, and let it expand. Let it grow bigger. Fill your whole heart, your whole chest. Then I went through that it filled all of her body. Then I talked her through, and it expanded. And with her focused intentions, she expands it out. So allow it to expand and envelop the little 5-year-old Chris, as if you were surrounding her with this warm blanket of safe love, acceptance, just feeling, no words now, just feeling safe. And let this green, loving energy just fill every cell of this little Chris's body. So, and then, you are good enough. I'm here with you. You're safe. You're safe. I'm here. I'm all grown up. I'm the one that's taking on these big goals. It's my job to do these big goals. I have the experience now. You were trying to do it, and that's not your job. Your job is to find the fun and the delight and show it to me and remind me of it. And together, we're going to be safe and have fun. And so we went on like that, and just calmed it down and closed it. And at the end of this visualization, Chris was actually feeling very calm. She was wiped out. She was feeling calm. She was feeling peaceful. She knows that she's got a lot of work to do, especially around the wounding that her father did, with her. Not only the wounding, but also the vow of loyalty to, protect her father. And so that's all, I have to share with you today. I hope that when you are dealing with gold trauma, that this gives you a little bit of an idea. If you get a client that says, no, I really don't have a gold trauma, that you might have an idea where you might take this to find the gold. So thank you again for being here with me, for allowing me to be with you, you marvelous community. I'm so glad. I'm so happy to know that you exist in the world, that we are all like-minded and we're on the same mission. And I'm Rosemarie Lester. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Hugs to you all.